All right. Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome to November CocoaHeads, our last meetup for the year. So let's get started. If you'd like to join in the discussions tonight, we've got a Slack group. You can see the URL to join the group there on the slide. I'll also put up the link on other slides as well. So if you don't get it now, you can note it down later. But yeah, discussions for tonight's meetup will be happening in there, as well as the place to ask speaker questions. So I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which CocoaHeads usually meets, and pay my respects to the elders, both past and present. So housekeeping. As I mentioned earlier, this is the last meetup of the year. We'll be taking a break next month and also in January, and we'll be back to things in February. So if anyone's got talks they'd like to give, feel free to get in touch, and we'll be able to start booking in from February onwards next year. So hi from the organizers. So I'm Zach on the line as well. We've also got Nikki and Carl.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Carl. Hey, Nikki. So as always, a big thank you to our sponsors, Bilu and Atlassian. They help cover our costs and make these meetups possible. And just a reminder that Sydney CocoaHeads has a code of conduct. We want everyone to feel welcome and comfortable at our events. And the code of conduct can be read in full on our website at that link there. But it boils down to 3 key points, and they are be respectful, be inclusive, and be aware. If you have any concerns about code of conduct, would like to speak to someone about it, please get in touch with myself, Carl, or Nikki. And please keep in mind that the code of conduct applies to all of our online meetups and as the discussions in the Slack group as well. So on that note, feel free to join our Slack group for discussions. It's not just good on the night of the meetup. We do have some discussions happening throughout the month in there as well, for general tech questions, Swift questions, general chatter about new shiny things like the MacBook Pros that were announced last week. So it can be a bit of fun. I definitely recommend joining if you're interested in any of that. Welcome to anyone who might be tuning in for the first time tonight. Great to have you with us, and especially to those who might not be from Sydney. One of the advantages of remote meetups is we can have people from all over. So a big welcome to anyone who's joining for the first time or isn't in Sydney as well. So some events that you should keep an eye out for. We've got Melbourne CocoaHeads. It happens usually the week before Sydney CocoaHeads, so on the second Thursday of a given month. If you enjoy this meetup, you'll enjoy that one just as much. They always have great talks. It's very well run. Definitely recommend checking that out. And we've also got EveryWorld, which is a conference from the people who run DevWorld, CreateWorld, and XWorld, normally 3 separate conferences. They're bringing them all together into the one conference this year, and that's happening at the end of the month, so between the 25th and the 27th of November. They have a Discord channel, which you're free to join and ask questions and discuss the event. And tickets are very inexpensive. They're only $25, I believe. So definitely worth checking out EveryWorld if you're at all interested in like Apple platform development. I'm sure there's a talk or 2 in there at least that you'll enjoy. But as far as I know, there's like 3 days worth of great content. So it should be a good event for those who are attending. So tonight's schedule. We're going to get started with the hiring and firing. Normally, if we're in person, I'd get people to stand up who are either looking for work or looking to hire. But tonight it'll have to be all virtual. So if you are looking for work or if you know of somebody who's hiring, please feel free to head on over to the jobs channel on Slack and post about it there. And hopefully you'll be able to find what you're looking for. The only thing that's been posted in that jobs channel for the last week or so is user-centric. They're looking for a 6-month React Native developer working on a banking or fintech project. So there's a few more details in the jobs channel as well as the person to contact if you check out the Slack group. But that is what we've got in the channel for now. So we will have a month in review. I'll be doing that just after this. And then we've got one talk tonight. It's by Aaron. It's the highly anticipated part 2 to his talk this time last year on iOS accessibility. I'm very much looking forward to that. And following that, we're going to have a post-meetup Zoom catch-up. And I'll be posting the link to that Zoom catch-up in Slack at the end of this presentation. So as I mentioned before, we are taking a break until February. We wish everyone a happy, safe, and healthy Christmas and New Year. please do stay safe, however you're celebrating. And just a gentle reminder as well that we are looking for talks from February onwards. And we do encourage lightning talks as well as somebody to do the month in review. So if it interests you, feel free to get in touch with myself, Carl, or Nikki. You can fill out the submit a talk form on the CocoaHeads website, or just get in touch with one of us directly on Twitter or something like that, however you'd prefer. All right, so let's get into the month in review. The beta cycle's continuing, so Xcode 12.2 and iOS 14.2 have both come and gone, released to the public, and we're up to Xcode 12.3 beta and iOS 14.3 beta. They've kicked off the beta cycle now, and they seem to be getting updates pretty frequently. In developer news, there's new subscription server notifications that are available in production. I believe these were announced at WWDC, but now they're finally available, which is exciting if you do subscriptions and you handle those subscription notifications on your server. What else happened? Well, the iPhone 12 mini and the 12 Pro Max went on sale. Can sort of boil it down to two key points. I think the iPhone lineup is absolutely fantastic this year, and no one's disputing that. But these two phones especially seem to be the standout for many. So the Pro Max has a great camera. It's a mammoth of a phone, according to everybody who has one. But it is truly impressive in every way, especially that camera. And for those people who like small phones, well, the iPhone 12 mini is definitely where it's at. It's sort of a return to that iPhone 5 style size. It's a little bit bigger than the iPhone 5, but for people who like small phones, I think this is very much a welcome change and definitely pretty exciting. But the phones announced last month weren't the only thing that Apple had in store for us this year. They had another event last week announcing some new Macintoshes. So we got new Macs with Apple Silicon chips. The Apple Silicon transition, which was announced at WWDC, is finally seeing the light of day for like the public release of these chips. And we got 3 new computers with these Apple Silicon chips. It's quite exciting. An interesting stat. It's faster than the M1 chip that's inside of these new computers is faster than 98% of PC laptops, whatever that means. I'd kind of be curious to see those 2% of PC laptops. But anyway, but yeah, the chip that powers this all, that makes it all possible, is the M1. It's an Apple Silicon chip. They've moved away from using Intel chips in these lower end computers. And the first one we got was the MacBook Air. This one's pretty exciting because it's fanless. It's really capable with that new chip, and the battery life is supposed to be fantastic. We also got a Mac Mini, and it's the only desktop Mac with an M1 chip in there at the moment. Interestingly, for this one, there seems to be heaps of empty space still inside the casing. So kind of begs the question, is there going to be a higher spec Mac Mini maybe this time next year? Who knows what they'll do with that extra space, but it could be exciting and lead the way to an even more powerful desktop machine, which would be pretty cool. And we also got a MacBook Pro. It still has a touch bar, but it has the new Apple Silicon chip in it as well, which helps with battery life, makes things faster. The graphics are better, all those things that you'd expect from this upgrade with the M1 chip. All 3 of these devices still look the same as the generations earlier, just with very different internals. Another highlight of the event was the return of this guy. Right at the end of the event, we got a visit from a PC. Bit unexpected, but pretty cool. So that chip that I mentioned inside of the Macs, it's a pretty big deal. It's fast. Everyone's saying it's fast, and I think most people are pretty blown away by how fast it is. People seem to be very surprised, myself included, with just how performant it is. You can see there compiling the whole of WebKit. The 3 columns highlighted green are the new Macs, and the ones on the right are existing Macs. So as you can see, that MacBook Air is faster than a 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is pretty cool. And the M1 Mac Mini and MacBook Pro sort of blow it out of the water. It does make me a bit sad at having bought a 13-inch MacBook Pro earlier this year, which, as you can see there, took 46 minutes to compile WebKit. But anyway. And the other really impressive characteristic of this chip is it seems to be enabling really ridiculously good battery life. You can see there that after compiling WebKit, both the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air had 91% battery left, whereas that 13-inch MacBook Pro on the right only had 24. So these chips are super performant, and it's quite exciting. They're basically their single core performance is the best in any Mac ever sold, and their multi-core performance rivals the current 16-inch MacBook Pro, which kind of wild when you think about it. And it's going to be exciting to see what a 16-inch MacBook Pro with an Apple Silicon chip in it is capable of. I think that's going to be a very, very compelling machine. I couldn't do a month in review without putting this on at least one of the slides, so please bask in the glory of Craig Federici staring at a Mac for a few seconds. And one final bit of news that is worthwhile covering this month. We got this announcement about 24 hours ago that Apple are reducing their cut of App Store revenue for developers with less than $1 million of turnover in the last year. This is a hugely exciting change, as there's been a lot of criticisms of Apple's 30% cut in recent years. I think we all know a lot of people who this is going to affect, some smaller companies, some smaller indie developers who sort of might work by themselves or in a small team who definitely don't come anywhere near this threshold and suddenly got a more than 20% pay rise, essentially. That's pretty cool. The interesting thing about this program is you can go, your eligibility can change year to year. So you might be eligible one year and not the next, or vice versa. And it's launching January 1st, 2021, and it's dependent upon your sales for the 2020 calendar year. The other interesting thing about this is it's worth noting that Sensor Tower, they do some app download and revenue analytics, estimate that only 98% of developers, a full 98% of developers will be eligible for the reduced rate. However, those 98% of developers are only responsible for 5% of App Store revenue. So it's a really interesting way for Apple to suddenly make a whole lot of people really happy while having a really negligible impact on their bottom line. It's definitely a win for everyone involved who's under that $1 million threshold, but it is interesting, just puts it in perspective how much of an impact this will end up having on Apple's bottom line. And all right, that pretty much brings us up to date with the news. That announcement only happened last night. So I am going to hand it over to Aaron now for his talk on iOS accessibility.
Oops. Thank you, Zach. All right.
Love your setup, by the way, Aaron. That's really cool.
Thank you. All right. So share this. Oh, nope. Don't share that. It's just like we're in person. Okay. Cool. And then I need to replay. Move you up there. Try again. How's that look? Does that look okay?
Spot on.
Cool. Okay. First off, I would just like to say thank you to Carl, Zach, and Nikki for letting me come back and talk. We were unanimous in saying that I could, so thank you for that. First off, I'd just like to say thank you for you three for throughout this year, because this is the last talk of the year. I need to say thank you. So if it wasn't for you three, CocoaHeads would have stopped during COVID-19. So thank you for continuing it. Good job. When we have an in-person event, the round of beers is on me. So thank you for that. All right, so I'm here to talk about accessibility on iOS. So this is actually a part 2 to my talk last year. This is a follow-on. So if you haven't seen that talk, if you go to this website, azure.com/YouTube, you'll be redirected to that other talk. And yeah, I won't be covering too much, there won't be too much overlapping content. It'll be pretty much fresh stuff, but I'll be continuing on. So with that in mind, I just want to say who I am again. My name is Aaron. I'm on Twitter at Azure. I'm an iOS developer. I'm also an accessibility champion. Basically, what that means is I try to get everyone on board with accessibility and promote it within my business and within my team and everything. And I also work at a bank. that being said, I need to say my views and opinions don't reflect that of my employer. I didn't say that last time. I'm saying it this time. So with that out of the way, let's get into some more stuff. So basically, what have I been doing the last 10 months since that last talk, other than auditing apps for accessibility? Well, I've been building a Braille app. So basically, I've been building an app using CreatorMail and Vision to transcribe tactile Braille to text and to voice. And yeah, CreatorMail and Vision. For those of you who don't know what Braille is, it's 2 columns of 3 dots. And as you can see in the picture, A is represented 1 dot in the top left, so that's number 1. B is 1 and 2, and then C is 1 and 4. And it goes on and on and on. And uncontracted Braille, each Braille cell represents individual character. Punctuation is a little bit differently, and numbers are different as well. But the possible combinations out of a 2x3 grid is 64, with one of them being 0. So taking that out, there are 63 classes in this machine learning model. And with that, I created 700 unique pictures of Braille. So I was punching holes in paper to make the Braille, and that was a bit hard. So then I decided to upgrade and get a Perkins Brailler, which you see here. And the picture in the middle, you can see there's actually, it's like a typewriter, except it has less keys, and you can type on it and it actually spits out Braille. So I created 700 pieces of paper like that one with unique, for unique lighting conditions and that sort of thing. And then I put it into an app and started annotating. So for those who haven't done machine learning before, you need to annotate. So you draw little boxes around stuff to identify it, and you give it a class, hence why there's 63 classes. So I did that on those 700 images, and I worked out I actually annotated, drew little boxes around 6,417 pieces of Braille. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. It took a long time, and I'll show you a demo of one of the early models and how it works. So basically, this is pointing at a piece of paper. You can see it says my name there in Braille, the top, Aaron, and it has the alphabet underneath, so A, B, C, D, and so on. So the idea of the app is that you'll be able to scan a piece of paper either by pointing your phone at it in a live mode, or be able to take a snapshot similar to in Notes when you want to import a document, and it'll actually transcribe the Braille to text. And the main use case of this is, so in a school, if you have a visually impaired child that is using a Braille, the work will get given to the teacher in the classroom, and then they not necessarily will know Braille, so they have to give it to another teacher who then has to transcribe that, where they write the letters of the mapping of the characters, give it back to the teacher, and then they mark the work. So this app is sort of to reduce that need for that third teacher or the second teacher. Yeah. Okay, so on to some fun stuff. So where are they now? Which is a question we often ask. So these 3 apps you see in front of you, Fires Near Me, the Gumtree app, and Qantas. These are apps that I audited last year, and I showed you some of the accessibility defects. I wanted to do a quick where are they now to show how far they've come in 12 months. I know when I did the talk last year, I apparently caused some buzz inside of these companies because they got called out publicly to fix them, fix these problems. And let's just see how they're going. And if, Zach, can you just tell me if you're hearing the sound when I play this?
Icon current location, button, possibly, location. Yeah, icon map terrain, button.
Cool, okay. I can't actually hear it, but that's okay. Basically, what it's saying is there's no accessibility labels on those 2 buttons, the button in the bottom, the 2 buttons in the bottom left-hand corner, bottom right-hand corner, sorry. And there's no accessibility label. So I called that out last year, so that hasn't been fixed. So that's still broken. So let's move on to Gumtree. So Gumtree, I don't think I know anyone that works at Gumtree. Anyway. So let's see how they have gone in 12 months.
Text, button, 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 button.
That sounds like fun. So that hasn't been fixed. So still broken. Let's see how Qantas are going.
Membership card, button. Settings, button.
Woohoo, we have a winner. We actually have someone who's fixed the problem. So that is fixed. Radar closed. Yeah, so that's all fixed for Qantas. They added accessibility labels for those buttons. Good job. Okay, so that was with that out of the way. Let's move on to the fun stuff of iOS 14. So there was actually quite a lot of accessibility, new accessibility stuff to come through on iOS 14. There wasn't a lot of new stuff for us developers to do, but there were a lot of, I guess, consumer features to be added in. So one of them is VoiceOver recognition. Basically, what this does is I'm assuming it's a whole bunch of machine learning models. There's an image one, a screen one, and a text recognition. And it will actually take the image or the text and put it into the model and spit out what it thinks. So I have the Photos app here, and I have a video which I'm going to play. So I've taken a photo of a coffee, Jim Beam, and a phone on a desk. You can see that there. So if I haven't added anything to this. All I have done is taken this photo, turned on VoiceOver recognition, and turned on screen descriptions, and then I'm just turning on VoiceOver and highlighting it.
All
They will beep
photos
before it reads out the
adjustable.
description.
Live photo. The 15th of November. A cell phone, a glass of beverage, and other items on a table.
Cool. So basically, that a cell phone, or what does it say? A cell phone, a glass, beverage, and other items on a table. So that's actually using this image description model, which I think is really cool. And then, so yeah, like I said, there's three. There's image descriptions, which speaks the description of what's in the image. There's text recognition, which speaks the descriptions of text found in images. And the last one is screen recognition. So this is for developers that have been too lazy to update their accessibility labels. So let's have a look at an app that hasn't done this. So this is the Gumtree app. And they haven't updated those accessibility labels at the top. So what we'll do, we'll turn on text recognition, screen recognition, and image description, and we'll see what happens now. And by the way, I've got VoiceOver turned on, and when the rotor pops up, which is in the middle, there's like a circle, I'm using two fingers to turn on screen. So you turn VoiceOver on, go into your app, and then go like this, and it will actually turn on the rotor, and you'll rotate between items. I then go to the screen recognition, and then I double tap to turn it on. So you can't see the gestures, but I just want to let you know.
Button. Screen recognition. Screen recognition on for Gumtree. Cars and vehicles. Button. 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 Cars and vehicles. Home and garden. Electronics. Sports and fitness. More categories.
Okay, so that's screen recognition. So I guess this is it's not a complete fix for Gumtree's lack of accessibility labels. It's an improvement. It's in the right direction because the images don't have any accessibility labels, hence why it's just saying button, button, button. And then the label underneath it, it's finding that and saying, hey, this is a label. Let's make this accessible so that VoiceOver can read it. So I think that's really cool in iOS 14. It's going to allow people to be able to use apps that they may not have been able to use as confidently. So that's pretty cool. The next one is Backtap. So I'll let this video talk. So if you go into accessibility, touch, scroll down to Backtap. I've currently got it set to double tap VoiceOver. So now if I double tap.
VoiceOver on. FaceTime.
VoiceOver is turned on.
Double tap to open. Use 3D touch to show home screen actions. VoiceOver off.
VoiceOver is off. Yeah, so that's Backtap. I'm sorry, I can't hear the audio coming back, so I'm having to join with my iPad. That's Backtap. It's pretty cool. You can actually set up shortcuts as well for the Backtap feature. So if you have a complicated shortcut, doesn't necessarily have to be an accessibility feature. It can be anything, and you can double tap or triple tap on the back of your phone. The next one up is screen sound recognition, And basically there's 13 different options here. You can set them on. I've turned them all on, and you can see on the far right-hand side, I've got a siren going off. So hence why you're getting this siren notification constantly. This is pretty good for people who are deaf or unable to hear and just being alerted of these events happening. The next one up, which doesn't have any audio, but it's sign language in FaceTime. So I had a group FaceTime call with some people you may know. They didn't know I was recording, but they did. I did tell them. But it was hard to keep Zach engaged, as you'll see in the video. Well, anyway, so in this video, Nikki, so at the moment, the square that I'm in is currently the prominent one. And Nikki is going to start speaking, and then his square is going to go to become the primary one. And I'm going to go back, and then I'm actually going to do sign language in group FaceTime. And then my square, and there's no audio on this, you can't hear it, but I'm not making any noises when I'm doing sign language, and it actually moves my square forward. So you have Nikki speaking, so he's moved forward. And I'll start doing sign language. Okay. And then it's hard to keep Zach engaged. Okay, so the next one is custom content. So basically what this one does is, that's actually really confusing. What this one does, it's for reducing the cognitive load for your users. So basically, let's turn that off, sorry. And basically it's reducing cognitive load for users. So this is in iOS 14. It's actually an API that us developers need to start implementing. There wasn't a session at WWDC. It sort of just was put in and it went under the radar. And in the Photos app at the moment, if you turn VoiceOver on, you may hear more content available when you actually select a photo, which you'll see in this video.
Photos. Double. Photos. Date range. Live photo. The 15th of November. More content available.
So it says more content available. I'm now swiping up.
11:24 p.m. The 15th of November. Date. Portrait.
So
orientation. 11:24 p.m. Live photo. The 15th of November.
The need for a very long
wood processed. Label, more content available.
It's grouping items into separate title and values, and then it's up to the user if they would like to actually listen to that information. Hence why I'm swiping up and it's saying portrait orientation, the time, and the date. So I think it's a really good time to jump into some code. So I have a sample app here, and basically it's a list of bank accounts because I work at a bank. Anyway, and I've been given a defect. So the defect is that when VoiceOver is selecting a bank account, it's not reading out account number. As you can see down there in the caption panel, it's saying ACC no. So if we listen to that.
Bank account 0, BSB 999999, ACC no 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, $12,345.
Account number, it's saying ACC no. So how you would probably fix this is possibly on the cell in the self-read index, or maybe some other new iOS 14 way. You might actually set the accessibility label. So you would expand it out. So you have bank account, the index row, which is how we're currently, this is all hard coded just for simplicity. We then BSB. So for those of you who don't know, BSB stands for bank, state, branch. We then have our account number, and then we have our balance. So that's how you might fix it, maybe in a pre-iOS 14. Now, in iOS 14 and onwards, we're actually going to fix it in another way. So I guess this has this fixed the defect, but has it actually fixed the defect? Because now we've actually made the accessibility label a lot longer.
Account number
so now it reads out everything.
1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 0,
and then it also has the balance.
$12,345.
So I don't know if this is the best way of doing it. You might think it's fixed and you can close off that ticket, but it's not really fixed, because that's if you want to find out the account balance for the last cell, but you don't, or for say bank account 4, but they're not in the right order, you'd have to listen to every single one to get that balance. So how do we fix this? So we changed our accessibility label. We by updating the bank account to just be the bank account name. We then extend our My Custom Cell class to conform to the AX Custom Content Provider protocol, and add in an accessibility custom content property. I know they're very long words, but basically what we're doing is we're separating each one of those labels into individual content items, and then putting them in an array to be returned to the cell, so that when VoiceOver reads it, it's either going to read all of it or it's going to read the one individual item. And at this point, I've actually set the balance, because I consider the balance to be quite high. I've set the importance of that to high, and then we're returning an array. So let's see how this works. Oh yeah, also, if you would like to get the code for this, azure.com/CocoaCCH sample code, it's all in there. Okay, so let's see how this works now. So you can see down the bottom of the caption panel, we have bank account 0. Now, because I marked the balance as important, it's actually added it onto the end of the accessibility label, and then it says button, and then it says more content available. And that more content available is telling the user that you can swipe up or down to get additional content. So if we play it now, and then I'll also swipe up as well.
Bank account 0, $12,345. Button. More content available. $12,345. Balance. 9999999. BSB. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Account number.
So also, just a caveat to this, I don't know if you noticed, but with the actual items that were added, they're set as a title and a value. But when VoiceOver reads them out, it actually reads the value before the title. I believe that's done on purpose. I'm not sure why it's swapped around. In my opinion, it should be title and then value, but it's read out differently. Okay, so next up, that's custom content. I highly recommend you update your accessibility labels to remove some of those items to include it in this new custom content way of doing things. Now we're going to step back to accessibility custom actions. Now, I did talk about this last year, but I wanted to give you a quick run through how custom actions appear on VoiceOver, voice control, and switch control, because I haven't seen a lot of resources of how they actually work across those assistive technologies. So as you can see here, we're adding 2 actions. We've got a transfer, and we've also got a share bank account details. I am setting an image on these actions, which is new in iOS 14. You couldn't do that before. And then I have a completion block, which returns true. And normally you would put your code in there, and if it was successful, it would return true. I am just returning true. I haven't actually got any content or any code in those completion blocks and completion handlers. And then I'm adding them to the accessibility custom actions array, which is done in the self-enrolled index. Again, if you go to the sample code, you'll be able to see all of this code. And let's have a look how this looks in VoiceOver. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how custom actions work with VoiceOver. So I've turned on VoiceOver, we're in the demo app, and the custom actions have already been added to each one of these bank accounts. So if I tap the second bank account, so it's telling me that there are actions available. So if I swipe either up or down, so transfer is that first action, share is the second, and then swiping one more time, we'll go back to the default. And if I do actually want to activate it, I can swipe back to the share and then double tap and share. So that's how you actually activate custom actions using VoiceOver. Okay, so that's VoiceOver. So that's how custom actions work. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Occasionally, you might need to actually, if you have changed your rotor settings, and you need to change the rotor again, like 2 fingers and rotating on the screen to go to actions. As long as it says actions available, those actions are there. So let's have a look how custom actions work in voice control. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how custom actions work with voice control. So if I say show names, as you can see, there's actually no indication that there are custom actions available for each one of those items. So it's just something to keep in mind when you are designing your user experience, that it's almost similar to the swiping function on a table view cell. It's not an obvious pattern unless you've used it before. So just keep that in mind. But you can still access custom actions. So if I say show numbers, show actions 4, 5. And so what it's just done is it's now showing my custom actions for bank account number 4, which is actually was number 5 on the list. And then I can just say tap 2. Tap 2 to then share it. Cool. All right. So that's custom. It's custom actions and voice control. Just keep in mind that when you are adding custom actions to your cells, it's almost like the pattern when you have swipe to delete or swipe to edit. You need to educate your users because there is no visual indicator. There's no audio to say, hey, there's custom actions available when they're using voice control. So just keep that in mind. And so now let's have a look using the switch control, how custom actions. Again, these are the same custom actions being added and used on different technologies. Okay, so we're now going to look how switch control works with custom actions. So we have a 2-button switch here. The left button is set to go to the next item. The right button is set to select that item. So switch control has just gone to sleep. So if I press the white button here, it'll wake up and so we'll get our first bank account selected. If I press it again, it goes to the next item and so forth. Now, if I press the right button to select it, we can actually see the new custom actions we've added, and we can simply select that and then share. So essentially that's how you share. Now, if we have a actually look, we can see that the images we've set on those custom actions, this is where they're being shown. So previously, before iOS 14, it would just take the first letter. And if you don't set an image, it will just take the first letter of your action and use that as the placeholder. Cool. Yep. So that's switch control. So let's move on to VoiceOver. Now, since iOS 8, you can actually change the way VoiceOver pronounce your app name. For instance, this example here, I have an app which the product name is ABC123, but the way VoiceOver reads it out is ABC123.
ABC123.
So how do we fix this? How do we make the product sound the correct way? Well, we update the CF bundle spoken name property in your info plist file, and you can actually change it. So I've actually set it here as ABC123. And when we read this out with VoiceOver now, it sounds a little bit better.
ABC123.
And so now, yeah, it sounds a bit better. So you might have tried to compress your product name down, removing all spaces to make it super short. But then, yeah, when VoiceOver reads it out, it sort of is a bit weird. You have to say it quite quickly, or maybe you put numbers in to change the letters or whatever. So yeah, this is probably a property that you'd want to update. An app that does currently do this in production, which you can download, is the Qantas app. So the Qantas app does it, and I'll let VoiceOver read out for you.
Qantas.
It says Qantas, but they've actually changed it. So if you look in the caption panel down the bottom, it actually says QWONTUS, Qantas. And I'm assuming they've done this because they want VoiceOver to say Qantas correctly. And this has good and bad. So I guess there's two sides of the coin for this feature. The bad side is when you use voice control and you say show names, it displays this weird name. So no longer does it have the nice Qantas product name. It says QWONTUS, which again sounds okay, but it doesn't look right. And then you can see there we have the ABC123, which again, and these are the names you need to say. So if you want to select Qantas, you have to say tap Qantas, and then it will tap that item. So just keep that in mind. There's two sides to that. Okay, so I haven't updated these slides for iOS 14, but there are a lot of features in iOS for accessibility. So I didn't update this, so I didn't get time to do it, but I highly encourage you to start small and just tinker away at it. There are a whole bunch of great WWDC sessions. This year, WWDC 2020, these sessions were fantastic. Again, these were focused specifically to accessibility. And last year as well, there's a whole bunch of good ones here. If you go to my website, azure.com/WWDC, I've got links. I've gone back to all of the previous WWDCs that I can get access to and list out and put links to every single video for accessibility. If I am missing any, please let me know. I'll add them to the list. But yeah, start watching these videos. There's a lot of great information in here. For instance, app accessibility with switch control, that'll show you how to use something like this and how to make your apps accessible. And one thing to end on is UBK Accessibility Kit. So last year, I introduced this at CocoaHeads. Version 1.0 was released. It came with a whole bunch of features. It's now available on GitHub at that link below, github.com/nab/UBK Accessibility Kit. Had a whole bunch of features. So you could swap colors. You could it'll get warnings for accessibility labels, for traits, for hints. You could generate accessibility reports by taking a screenshot, a whole bunch of stuff. Now, there's normally always a sequel. So in the next version, 1.1, I'm introducing a whole bunch more stuff. You can now do UI testing report generation. So when you take a screenshot and it generates a report, you can do that in UI testing now. It has Braille warnings. You can find duplicate labels. So for voice control, this will actually help you find those duplicate warnings and reduce errors when you're using voice control. There's spelling mistakes in accessibility labels, which is a pretty big one. If you're typing it out and hard coding it in Interface Builder and you make a spelling mistake, this will now tell you there's a spelling mistake. There's persistent settings now. So between running of your app for the accessibility kit, will actually save your settings so you don't have to keep changing that. Also added in font validation. So if you have specific fonts for your brand, you can add them in and it'll warn you when you're not using one of those fonts. There's also improved documentation and reports as well. Now I'm going to give you a quick demo of this new version. Let's please hold for one moment. Okay. That's not the right one. Let's change that. Okay, so I have Accessibility Kit here. So this is version 1.1 of Accessibility Kit. So in Accessibility Labels, you can see the warning. So for those of you who haven't seen it, this is Accessibility Kit. We have this little floating accessibility icon, which you can move around. And then you can see there's actually a little cross there. If you tap it, it brings up the inspector and the UI elements. And you can see there's a whole bunch of warnings here. So for instance, this labeled 5 here, I don't know if, I'm not a designer, but the font on that label, it doesn't quite look right. So if I tap into that accessibility, into that UI element, just by tapping on the screen, tapping on the actual label, it brings up the actual properties for this UI accessibility, like for the UI element. And you can see we have a whole bunch of different warnings here. So it's not supportive of dynamic type. It's missing an accessibility hint. There's a spelling mistake in the label, and it's also the wrong font being used. So if I actually go and have a look, you can go in and it'll tell you a little bit more, or you can just go down and have a look. So you can see the label here. It's actually got a double B in it. So it's LABEEL. So it's spelling mistake. And then the font. So we can see we have, it's actually marker felt thin. That's the wrong font for this app. And then if we go in and actually look, we can actually look at accessibility reports. I haven't got any here, which is unfortunate. We can also look, so these are the current font validations that have been added in. So what I can also do is if I take a screenshot, and then if I tap the screenshot, and then at the top, if I press full page, it's actually created an accessibility report inside the screenshot manager. So this obviously is not the screenshot, but it's generated a PDF, and you can export this or add this to your documents, whatever you want to do. And then if you're not happy with that, you want to delete the screenshot, but you're like, oh no, I actually did want that report. You can go in now and go in here and go accessibility reports, and there's a report right there, and you can send that out. You can share multiple, you can delete them, whatever you want to do. Yeah. And then, so buttons, the other cool thing is on buttons now. So let's see, we have this red button here. So if I tap this button, now if we have a look, if I go to attributes, and we can actually see the button states. So we actually currently don't have a disabled state for this button, like a different appearance. So that might be confusing for the user. And you can see that in the app here. Yeah. So that's pretty much Accessibility Inspector 1.1. Hopefully it'll be out before the end of the year. Yeah, so I'll switch back to slides. Cool. All right. So final thoughts. I sort of hopped on this last year. I'm going to do it again anyway. As designers and developers, we have the responsibility of making sure we build our user experiences and products for everyone. Whether you like it or not, your app is going to ship with VoiceOver, voice control, switch control support, Braille support. You can't change that. So you should start testing these features in your app to make sure they work for all of your users. I know there is quite a lot of accessibility features and stuff that you need to test or cover. So just start small, update those accessibility labels, and start climbing that tree to update more stuff. Start with VoiceOver, test that, start with voice control, and then start with switch control. You don't need a physical switch. You can just use your phone as a switch as well and just tap on screen. Yeah, so please start doing that. And yeah, last thing is please go make your apps accessible. Please, please, please. And that pretty much wraps everything up. Thanks. Again, you can find me on Twitter if you have any accessibility questions, or hit me up. I'm happy to get in a debate or suggest stuff to fix. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thanks heaps, Aaron. That was really good. I've been monitoring the Slack for questions and we haven't got any yet. So if any come in, I will send them your way, but I did have one myself. So the new ways of configuring a table view cell with accessibility elements in iOS 14, if you make that change, say on your app in Xcode 12, is that backwards compatible, or do you need to handle accessibility differently for iOS 13 and iOS 14?
I believe you have to handle it differently because it was only built. I believe you have to handle it differently.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be consistent with some of the new table view cell styles, that like the configuration styles you can do. But yeah, I wasn't sure for the accessibility. That's good to know. Yeah. Thanks. Cool. Yeah, just some people saying excellent talk, but we don't have any more questions at this point. So thanks heaps. That was awesome. It was a great follow on from last year. And that wraps us up for tonight, everyone. So thank you for joining. Thanks for joining all this year. It's been an interesting year. We've made it. But yeah, I hope everyone has a great Christmas break. And on behalf of myself, Nikki and Carl, thank you for joining us during this remote meetup. Thanks, Aaron, for talking tonight. And there will be a post-Zoom catch-up, which I'll post the link to in the Slack group in a few moments as well. So thanks, everyone, and have a good Christmas. And we'll see you in February.
See you all. Happy holidays.
Anyone, happy holidays and see you soon.